United States began bargaining for who they wanted. And himself, von Braun himself essentially went to the United States of America where he set up NASA. Now you got to remember too that the Ashkenazim were very heavily involved in the Nazi Party as well. And the thing about it was that the setting up of what do you call it, NASA or NASA was actually Nasi, or it was taken from the so-called ancient Hebrew or the so-called what do you call it, the Hebrew alphabet again, the gematria. It was taken
Yeah.
from the gematria and it meant illusion. Okay, so NASA was set up essentially based on to bring von Braun, who was the king of the rocket science at that time, to bring him and his entourage of over what it must have been about 113, which essentially came over in the rat lines and set up the Nazis. In fact, one of your presidents of the United States, um, George Scherf, was the Hitler Youth, and he was the one who essentially was sent over to monitor Tesla's work. In fact, Tesla was the one who uh, who gave him a nickname. And you ever see that cartoon with the little monkey? I forgot the name of the little monkey. And
Curious George.
Curious George. That's
Yeah.
Curious George was George
So
Sher.
you're talking about George Bush with George
George
Sher,
Bush. Yeah,
who
George Sher.
you
Yeah. And
explained, and
so he, what happened was when since he was working with Tesla, the word is that there was a guard, one of the personal guards of Hitler. His name was Stempfler, not Stempfler. Stempfler was the one who wrote Mein Kampf. Stempfler um, was the Jesuit priest who wrote Mein Kampf for Hitler. And so what happened, if you're looking at the situation where they began to create NASA and to infiltrate through the CIA, CIA again was set up with by the Vatican. And so you have to understand that everything that you're looking at today was actually a mending and a blending of the Nazis who essentially came
right,
over here and set up with George Scherf. You notice that George Scherf became the head of the CIA.
yeah,
You
right.
see, it's all connected
Because
together.
I was going to speak about Prescott Bush, and then I was going to speak about OSS
Yeah.
being precursor to
Mhm.
CIA, and
Yeah.
how all of this always ties in. The dope always seems to find itself tied in somehow, because that, of course, is the black. That's the funding, right? So that's the black ops. Prescott Bush was running opium
Hmm.
um, during the when the British had the opium running out of China, as you explained, and we've done the research and corroborated all of this information. That's where the skull and bones comes from.
Hmm.
All of that Yale money, and then his son, who later on becomes George Bush, becomes the head of the CIA. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Then, ironically enough, they start dabbling the coke. You know what I'm saying? And then they show you, we could even go further back to the French Connection when the Americans made the deal with Lucky Luciano in the 40s, right? For the troops to go up through the back of North Italy. And then they had to make the deal with Lucky Luciano because Lucky Luciano had to tie to the mobsters in Italy.
They
He
ran the
made
ports.
yeah, he made that possible. And then they turned over the dope trade to him through the French Connection and said, we're going
Right.
to turn our backs. They showed that in Godfather of Harlem when they brought over the 100 keys of dope,
Hmm.
and then our people been on a doozy ever since.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Hmm.
So the CIA has always been involved in these rat line operations, these black op operations. You know what I'm saying? To create a whole third economy. This that runs up in the trillions. So the dope always has funded their clandestine operations, specifically their ones dealing with what we might consider to be Nassau, and then you know to 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 tap into it. I don't know if you're familiar with Stephen Greer and where
Hmm.
he speaks about the black ops
Yeah.
and how this information goes to the highest levels that even presidents are not even briefed.
I know.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
That
wanted to bring back to the UFO situation to understand how that works because we got to tie that into Bluebeam.
yeah,
Um,
this is yeah.
yeah, you have to tie that into Bluebeam to understand how the Vatican is working that particular line, so that they can get the people who are connected and hypnotized by religion to believe that the second coming is a reality.
Hmm.
So when we start talking about the technology for the UFOs and any of the people coming out to speak about that, and you start talking about how the CIA and national security and so forth, all of them are part of the elite, the 0.1% that's being run not by the 13 bloodlines that we know of, Rockefeller and Rothschild. These guys are essentially the business, the I guess the what do you call those? The CEOs of the company, the owners of the company are the 13 families behind them, the Aldoblandinis, the Orsinis, the Great Pope, who is Pepe Orsini. These are the people running the Black Pope and the White Pope. So you have to understand
Hmm.
that there is a what I call the incunabula, which is why they use the baby Christ, and you see them, the Pope, doing this ritual with the baby, and the fact that they slaughter and eat and drink the blood. They're into the infant Jesus, where they talk about him being crucified and sacrificed, and everything about this religion is about blood, and they're the ones who worship Lucifer. They have a chapel in the Vatican that is built to Lucifer, which is why they essentially are looking to the skies to find out whether or not they're going to open it up again. The Vatican essentially is looking to the skies to see if those who are the watchers are going to open up that dome and flood them out again. That's their fear. Now, you remember at the time when they were trying to break through to see what the dome was actually made of, they had these what you call I forgot what it's called. It was Operation Dominic, which was to essentially send up nukes to try to blast through the dome because they couldn't. If you notice,
Hmm.
they haven't gone into outer space. It's a bunch of crap, and I'm going to prove it on that date. You're going to see all of the lies exposed around NASA, and you're going to look at them as nothing more than Disney for adults. That's all it is. It's a bunch of crap. It's Disney for gullible adults. And so what we're going to learn, and I know I'm jumping back and forth because we should have
No,
a short
you good.
time. Yeah, that we're going to learn a lot about what our reality is structured around, and we're going to learn how time works. You know, you've heard me here many times, and in my students know that thought is time, and that the human thought, and the instincts of animals are time. That's how time as an element manifests itself. Just like fire, air, water, and earth manifests itself as sight, sound, smell, and taste. Time is an element. Without it, a creation does not happen on third density. Third density is a pulse. That's why your heart is a pulse. That's why your breathing is a pulse. That's why everything seasonally is a pulse, because that pulse essentially is representative of the yin and yang keeping balance. So your heart is
Hmm.
not doing a four term, it's doing a 6/8. That's why jazz was so easy for us to be able to play. We played in a 6/8 feel,
Say,
you
yeah,
see. So what I would say to people is tune in, please. I'm not sure if our good brother Rich has put up the link for
the link,
everybody
yeah.
to, yeah, to have, please, because again, like, I want you all to get in at the cheaper price, so that you can get in, and at the discount price before it goes up on the 15th of this month.
Yes, indeed.
Mm.
I know that Brother Rich and King Simon was dropping a link a second ago. Family, if you see the link, please click on the link, grab your tickets, right? Get your tickets, get a seat in the building. Okay, the doc is going to bring, he's going to bring the phone book of receipts out for this one. This is a very important conversation and narrative to have because often it teeters on people not having enough information and proof to be founded in which way they are, observing themselves in time and space. And it's very important to have an idea of what your coordinates are. You feel me? I would think for manifestation reasons, you should want to know where you exist at any given time and what's going on around you. And it's time to review everything that has been told to us, specifically by the people who are responsible for relaying information to us, that are telling us everything that they're showing us is CGI. Um, I've been amazed at the James Webb Telescope photos, but I'm like, if you can see to the edge of the universe, how you can't see subatomic particles inside of the cell? How we can't get a picture of an isolated virus yet? You know what I'm saying? But you
We're gonna
got
break that down. We're gonna break that down in it. We're gonna show you how they're creating the
look,
universe on
I ran
computer.
down. Yeah, I ran down on that on in Greenbelt in September of last year. They wouldn't let me in, of course, but
Of
they
course.
had a little museum, on the outskirts, and they were showing, what I'm saying, the screens and everything. And I'm like, you trying to tell me that this glass contraption is floating through astro? I'm like, the Wi-Fi don't even work in here. I can't
I
even
know,
look. You
yo. How about when Nixon got a phone call from the moon and you can't get bars down the
you know
block.
what I'm saying?
You
So
know.
yeah, it's like, even if I wasn't an adherent to the information of flat Earth, that
Mm-hmm.
the round Earth community has so many questions that go unanswered and so many contradictions, and the fact that the people positioned on that line are just bold faced lies and everything else that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So just by default, we have to, look at them with a skeptical eye to be like, we got to put this through the ringer as well, just
Mm-hmm.
because y'all represent it. You feel me? And I
Yeah.
know that what you represent is a falsehood. Um, so yeah, I'm interested to hear the information.
Well, you should hear.
It's a very riotous community that
Mhm.
you belong to. So
Well,
I
you should
think
hear
that
what Brother King Simon, beloved brother, he went up to what's his name? The what's the name of the black astrophysicist? Neil deGrasse Tyson,
yeah, Neil deGrasse,
and he
yeah,
wanted Neil deGrasse wanted to he wanted Neil deGrasse to do a kind of a discussion with me over flat
yeah,
Earth. So he obviously must have seen what I was doing because I did do it on it, and he refused him. And
yeah.
I know
Neil
he
deGrasse sound
Neil
wild.
deGrasse, yeah, Neil the Ass Tyson or deGrasse Tyson, he essentially is a buffoon. Essentially, a very wound up buffoon that's egotistically structured so that if you're not listening to him and you don't pay attention to him and you don't believe everything he says, he starts getting unwind. And you begin to see him start getting agitated because you're challenging his authority.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm
he
going to break
gets
that down as
doesn't take
well.
that well.
Yeah, he doesn't take
We familiar
criticism well.
with we familiar with his father at all?
No,
Okay,
no.
yeah,
I don't doubt where he came from because essentially he reminds me of that kid in the aisle, European kid in the aisle who's talking back at his mother and cussing at her, and he doesn't get his way. He lays down and starts kicking a tantrum. That's who he reminds me of. He does not stay.
indeed.
He first of all, you remember when he was there and they asked him, "Is the Earth what do you call it flat?" He says, "No, it's round. It's kind of flat. It's kind of bulging at the equator. It's oblate." And then he comes back next time. He says, "It's pear shaped." So what is it? It's oblate or is it pear shaped? What is he talking
You
about?
know,
And people are not attacking him for this nonsense he's given to our people. You see? So he tries to use his celebrity and his credentials to offset critical thinking and questions that essentially have to do with his very science, the science that he represents. He doesn't want anybody like myself or anybody to challenge him, because essentially quantum physics is a religion. Everything that
Mhm.
quantum physics deals with is theory, it's belief, it's the use of certain things that work and then projecting a gigantic thesis around the thing that you've discovered by putting two things together, two atoms together, two this together. They're very sophisticated with taking what already is and twisting it and warping it. But when it comes down to asking them, for instance, I have an entire section on gravity. And when you listen to the crap that they talk about as far as gravity is concerned and what they attribute to gravity, you'll say this is ridiculous. It's still a theory. So everything they're working with is a theory. What they do know, they will never reveal to you. Like for instance, they keep pushing this buffoon, this oaf named Albert Einstein. Einstein was an idiot. Einstein essentially stole everything that they essentially in the Ashkenazi community, in the Zionist community, they pushed him through the incredible network of their media. He got all of the accolades against all of the scientists I'm going to show you were the ones who were putting down deep sciences. The E equals MC squared that he used and is now being used is a farce. It is still theory. It has not been proven.
Yeah.
Though
Theory of
come
relativity.
together, everything that they come together to actually attribute to it, they try to pigeonhole it into E equals MC squared. And that's how they keep you and me ignorant of moving forward scientifically on how to develop what we do intellectually into a reality.
Well, I mean, honors and kudos to you. I first learned about Dr. Oyibo, Dr. Gabriel Oyibo through you and your
Yeah.
platform and, things that you were doing with the good brother who brought forward the grand unified theorem. And when he laid that out and juxtaposed it against the theory of relativity,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? I think that
Yeah.
he laid that down pretty well.
Well,
Where,
just don't hold on to your
yes,
thoughts.
I'm
The
listening.
theory of
Hmm.
relativity, you'll come to find, was created to offset what it is that the Michelson-Morley experiment, that actually did an experiment to see whether or not the Earth was in motion. After Morley actually came out with their thesis and showed that the Earth did not move, the theory that he created, relativity, was created to offset that. So the theory of relativity really was never proven. It was set up as a bulwark against us investigating further why it is that their experiment, the Michelson-Morley experiment, showed that the Earth was not moving. And in my program, in the webinar, I will show you piece by piece, scientist by scientist, what they found out.
Right. So the Earth is stationary, and
Yes,
where does it exist in a quadrant of time and space? If it's a fixed, is it a fixed location?
it is a fixed location on a plane of existence. And the plane of
Right.
existence, essentially, what we look at as third density is
Hmm.
a compression zone. It's a compression zone that deals with densities. That's why there's no such thing as gravity. Gravity is what they use to ascribe a particular energy based in electromagnetic energy. So the density within the envelope that we call air or atmosphere, your density deals with the velocity that which you fall. It is not gravity pulling you. It is your density, essentially your weight, that's bringing you down inside of a spectrum of energy, which is essentially water, because that's what air
Hmm.
is. Air is nothing more than
Right.
qualified water. So the density of the air that we have right now, as opposed to the weight that's falling through it, that's what's happening. That's what's really going on. There's nothing pulling. Because if it was gravity, then why is it the clouds ain't coming down? How is it that birds, which are little tiny animals, can actually lift off of it if there's such a great pulling energy as they say? It's nonsense.
Right. I tend to think about when I'm in a plane and I see a density of clouds, then I see another density layer of clouds, and
Hmm.
then there's everything else that's underneath it.
Hmm.
And oftentimes I will look up and don't see that second or thicker layer of clouds that you fly over when you can't see nothing through it. You like, or that would be considered an overcast, but why did I just land and the sky is perfectly blue?
Hmm.
And then I know from my name being blue that the sky ain't blue and neither is the ocean. So and we already live on an illusionary, if they want to call it a plane or a ball or a marble or whatever they want to call it, it's an illusion because it ain't blue. And they tell you we live on a blue planet. That's not true because the
Hmm.
water ain't blue and the sky ain't blue. So
Right.
that's an illusion to
Well,
begin
you
with, right? So
see,
we
yeah,
are participating. Oh, I'm reaching. Okay.
yeah. Wait till you see what happens
Yeah.
against the dome and what they call the lightning that comes off the dome up in the
It
upper
was blue.
atmosphere. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, yes, it is a lot. There's so many questions that I do have, but I think that they would be more qualified if I got my ticket and showed up to class, you know what I'm saying, and sat there for because I ain't too grown for a headache, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Dr. Phil used to send me home with my head split, like, and that was because my neurons had to recalibrate, and where lies were once lodged, they no longer had residency. They got kicked in their posterior, like, get up out of here, lie. And then they were this, so they was free radicals. So now I had a headache because I'm like, then you blow them out with snot, you know what I'm saying? And then you don't got the headache no more. And that's how stuff used to happen. Like he would loosen up, you know, like
Yeah, it's time to evict those neurons because they've been there too
I'm a
long.
victim.
They've been squatters in your
All right.
reality, taking up your